We just got the final trailer for Zootopia 2, and my excitement for this film probably can't get much higher than it is right now. When the first Zootopia film came out back in 2016, I thought it was so good. Despite it getting really good reviews and grossing over $1 billion though, I don't think a lot of people took it all that seriously. Or rather, they brushed it off quite a lot and very much underplayed its success and its impact. For me though, I thought it was one of Disney's best films of the revival era and probably is in my handful of favourite animated films ever made. In the aftermath of the movie though, I was a little bit shocked that they had no real follow-up beyond some vague statements about how the actors would be interested in coming back for more, but since Disney was still rolling in the cash at that point, I also wasn't too worried. I figured that since they seemed to be able to make anything into a hit in that day and age, they'd probably just keep on going with original content and establishing franchises that they can then cash in on at a later date. They then had Moana, and then 2 sequels from the early revival era with Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Frozen 2, then COVID came and the studio just lost the Midas touch. Before COVID they were flying high, and then afterwards crowds were not coming and the movies were flopping. So here we are, break glass in case of emergency. Moana 2 last year for over $1 billion, and now Zootopia 2 this year for hopefully the same sort of increase. Since it grossed over $1 billion the first time around, surely they must be eyeing off the numbers that Inside Out 2 pulled and be thinking they could make a run for that at the very least. Maybe even thinking about $2 billion to become the second ever animated film to pull those numbers. Anyway, the first teaser came out towards the start of this year, and then the main trailer dropped about a month ago, and it did very well for itself. Now, with a little less than 2 months until the release of the movie, we've gotten the final trailer. And I'll be honest, it isn't quite going the way I would have anticipated as of writing this. It's only been out for about 10 hours and hasn't even gotten to 1 million views on the official YouTube release, which I feel is much slower than usual. I do wonder what's going on there, especially since the last one's currently sitting at 14 million views, so it's not like this is some film that has no hype or anticipation surrounding it. Just find it rather odd. Okay though, time to jump into the trailer. We start off, as we did in the previous trailer, with there being a major focus put on the bond and partnership of Judy and Nick, with questions being raised as to whether they're a good fit as partners in the Force, or whether they should go their separate ways. We have a very spliced up piece of dialogue from Chief Bogo. Feels like it's from 3 separate moments or scenes to tell you the truth. His first bit of dialogue is at the ZPD. There seems to be an obvious cut to partnership, and then another cut to him saying the cornerstone of success. It feels like all of this comes from the one speech that he's giving at the start of the trailer in front of all the cops, but it's been chopped up and compressed to try to fit into the trailer format. I'm not sure it really works, it's very noticeable. We then see some of the points of contention within the partnership. We get a look at a lot more of the chase scene that's supposedly going to land these two in the doghouse with the ZPD. They're undercover and they go on a high-speed chase, and whilst Nick seemingly wants to give up because it's getting more and more dangerous for both him and the public, I think that Judy still has that killer instinct and that feeling that she has something to prove. I like this, to tell you the truth. It would have been so easy for them to write Nick to be the more wild and reckless character because he's the former con man turned cop who definitely has more to prove than Judy does. Instead, they go in the opposite direction, and I think it fits their characters a lot more. We also see that it won't just be the statue from the last trailer that cops it during their high-speed chase. They're also going to cause a bit of damage to the city in general. For instance, here she crashes the car into a wool container which explodes and crashes into a barber shop. A barber shop. I really love the goofy animal humour they use in these films. We cut back to Bogo's speech, which is intercut with more proof that they're having some early struggles as partners. We see Nick almost falling down something. I have no idea what the context of this is, but to stop himself from falling to his death, he grabs onto Judy's ears. Not really sure what else he was supposed to do here though. Just die, I guess? We also see what I suppose is the start of the chase. We see Nick and Judy dressed up as a family with the Fennec Fox who used to play Nick's son in their scams. So did they just press this dude into service, or is he a cop too? Probably the first one. We see that they're investigating some shipping containers, and despite Nick thinking that they need to get out of there, Judy keeps going and picks a lock which makes the stuff in the container fall out, alerting the crooks to what's going on and allowing them to escape. Nick wants to stay put, but Judy wants to pursue them, which leads to the stuff we've already seen with the barbershop crash and then plummeting off a bridge and into a statue that's being unveiled by the mayor. I presume it's going to be after the chase gone wrong that we get the whole therapy session storyline, which in turn is going to get Judy to want to prove herself yet again. And since they probably heard that a snake was involved with Anthony the Anteater and what was going on there, she decides to take a chance and go to that big party at the mansion. Before we get that though, we have some shots of Nick and Judy driving through Zootopia in the Meter Maid mobile. Over the top of these shots is dialogue from Nick and Judy, with Nick asking her if she thinks that they're a good team or not, with Judy of course thinking that they are. This is probably him trying to get her to calm down and take a step back from things because he feels like if they know it, then they have nothing to prove. Meanwhile, I think she wants that acknowledgement from the establishment. She needs that sense of validation more than anything. Hence her line about how she wishes she knew what they had to do to prove it to everybody else. Also, I'm guessing that they got slammed back down to parking duty because of their less than stellar record, judging by the fact that they're driving that thing around when, at the end of the first film, they had an actual police car, not a little buggy. I think that Judy's going to be pushing to try to track down the snake to try to get some prestige back, build up their mystique a little bit again. After all, they're the ones who managed to catch Mayor Bellwether, and yet now they're fumbling cases? It is a bit of a come down from those lofty heights. This is going to lead them to the party, which I suspect they're going to be infiltrating against the wishes of the upper brass. Looks like a big shindig. Gazelle, who's the big pop star of the city, is performing there. Organised crime figures like Mr. Big are going to be there, and there's even a red carpet and paparazzi. They attend this gala, they're all dressed up. Do we reckon they somehow falsify an identity to get into this thing? Or maybe they straight up are invited because they're kind of minor celebrities for their heroics. I feel like it's more likely they're going to sneak in, but you can't rule it out either that they're just invited. We then get a look at the gala, and I did note that there felt like there was a lot of repeat characters you could see in this sequence. Not just similar looking. Characters of the same species with the same feature/design and even the same clothes. Not exactly hugely excited to see that sort of thing, but I probably wouldn't have noticed when watching through the actual movie. It's just something I noticed when I was overanalyzing the trailer. Of course, the snake appears at the worst possible time if he doesn't want to get caught. He appears out of a bag on stage in front of everybody. This causes panic because there are no snakes in Zootopia, and so Judy goes after him to try to arrest him in the chaos. So is this society just kind of segregated and awful? Seems they're trying to arrest this dude because he's a snake and because he made his way into the city. That's it. That's the extent of his supposed crimes. Is there something that we don't know about just yet that's come up in their investigations? He and Judy are going to have a talk and he'll tell her that he isn't the bad guy. Snakes aren't the bad guys. He has to set things right, and when he does, his family will be able to finally come home. So I'm thinking that his family have either had to go into hiding, or they've been kidnapped for some nefarious purpose and he's being blackmailed to ensure their safety. Obviously, Judy has learned to not judge a book by its cover, and so this is getting her to let her guard down, just as Gary gets brained with a frying pan by Nick. Where does he get a frying pan from? I will say, though, that when this happened, I just burst out laughing. I didn't expect it. You have this really intriguing, plot-relevant dialogue that's utterly destroyed by this out-of-nowhere attack. I really love that type of humour, to tell you the truth. Okay, so yeah, looks like we're working out of a bit of chronology from this trailer. Things are going to start off with them struggling as partners, then they're forced to go to therapy together to try to fix things. Judy's going to want to get to the bottom of the whole snake debacle, whilst Nick's a bit more skeptical. Then they go to the gala, they mingle a little bit whilst Gary makes his grand entrance, and this leads to them trying to apprehend him. This in turn is going to lead to his KO and what happens next when Nick and Judy toss him out the window to ensure that he can escape and that he doesn't get arrested, because if he gets taken in by the cops, they'll never be able to get to the bottom of what's going on. This in turn is going to ensure that both Nick and Judy also have to go on the run because they've just broken the law. I think under normal circumstances this would probably just lead to them being reprimanded, but the scene where the old Lynx guy yells at the new mayor makes me think that there are big power players behind the scenes that want this dealt with harshly. The angry dude's named Milton, according to the subtitles, who is some big power-broking business guy. So either he's pissed that Judy and Nick trashed his party, if he did host said party, or he's involved with whatever's going on with the snake, and thus he needs things stopped pronto. So what do we think's going on here? Is this story going to be an attempt to address systemic racism? After all, whilst it feels as though there was a clear prey and predator divide in the first film, this one's even more pronounced. Mammals versus reptiles. There seem to be almost no reptiles in all of Zootopia, and those that are in hiding. Why would they need to hide out unless they were being treated badly to begin with? I mean, let's not forget they were seemingly out to arrest the snake just for being there. It can't be a good place to be a reptile. On top of that, every other reptile in the trailer seems to acknowledge that there are preconceived notions of what they're going to be like. I'm thinking that Milton is going to be the main villain here. I don't foresee them doing yet another villain fake out. That was all the rage back in the 2010 when Zootopia first came out. So many animated movies were doing it, and Disney was doing it way more than most across both their brands. They really led the charge in that respect, and I kind of think it would be lazy to do it yet again. I think it's just as compelling to craft a really awful and despicable villain over the course of the story. Also, it seems that the new mayor, voiced by Patrick Warburton, is going to be a massive himbo. Excellent. This new generation, they need their version of Kronk, and I'm all here for that. I hope they can give him the depth that Kronk's characterization had, though, and the amount of classic lines and jokes. They are starting strong with this one, though. Next up, we get the reveal of how they even knew there was a snake in Zootopia to begin with. At the end of that big disastrous chase that's going to happen at the start of the film, Judy's going to find some of Gary's scales, which is going to clue them in. But nobody's going to take her seriously, including Nick, if his dialogue earlier in the trailer over the top of the clips of them at the gala is anything to go off. He says that a snake hasn't visited Zootopia in ages. So once again, based on that, I'm pretty sure that figuring out how their partnership's going to work and coming to a greater understanding is going to form a big part of the story of Zootopia 2. I just hope they don't force a split. We've been there, done that in the first movie. I think it would be more interesting to see them outright work through any issues they have as a team, as opposed to having them go away and grow as individuals. I think that'll help the movie stand on its own and not feel too derivative. Nick and Judy go hunting for the snake and meet Nibbles Maplestick, a beaver who lives in Marsh Market, who helps them find the reptiles. So they head down to Marsh Market, a lot of which we've seen before, and yeah, these people are a very obvious parody of swamp people. The whole hey bub thing was very, very dumb, but I couldn't stop giggling like a child either. There's something about stupid humor like that where it gets funnier the longer it goes. You start to laugh from the sheer absurdity because just keeps going and going, even if you hadn't laughed originally. I think it's during this part of the story where eventually they're going to meet that lizard who's this grisly old timer, being all serious about how they can help him overcome reptile prejudice. Then he starts running across the water with that funny lizard waddle sprint, making loud old man grunts. That made me laugh longer than it should have. It was just hilarious. I think during this part they'll also find that secret reptile club and eventually get back on the trail of Gary, which leads to the water slide, and then eventually they catch up to him, and it's a journey across the city. After all, we know that they eventually catch up with him and team up because we see them all in the desert district together. It seems like the story's going to visit most of the districts and they'll go on a bunch of adventures to try to figure out what's going on and probably reveal the truth over time. And what the truth is? I don't know. They've actually crafted a great trailer here because it showcases a lot of interesting moments and a lot of action, and getting across the big character beats, whilst leaving the story in relative mystery. I really think studios are stepping up their trailers these days. They're a lot better than they used to be where they just revealed everything. I really love the trailer. I think I'm going to love the movie. I'm super hyped. Can't wait. And so with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the Zootopia 2 final trailer? Did you like it? Hate it? Are you hyped for the film? Maybe not. I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.